Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and this is my October and my November reading wrap up.
Let's start with the reading stats. I read 7 books, 3,472 pages, average rating of 4.14 stars, and 3 genres of paranormal romance, fantasy, and thriller.
I'll start with the one that I read at the beginning of October, which is When the Moon Hatched. I have a reading vlog on my channel reading this book and Bride, and I'll link it here if you guys want to see my experience of reading it. The beginning of this for me was a little bit stop-start, but that's because I did not read it very consistently from the very beginning, which is like my biggest thing that I want to tell everyone is the beginning is the world building. There's a good amount of things going on that you just don't really want to miss too much, so try and read it like really consistently, and I hope you love it as much as I do. I don't even know, like the cliffhanger at the end of this, I am waiting for the next book so hard. The writing style in this I loved, and the main character, Rave, I loved her. Her monologue, her banter, like everything about her was just so fun. And Khan, oh, loved him, yes. At first, I was very unsure because of obviously the introductions that we first get of him and what we know of him in the beginning. It's not leading to like very good things, but yes, loved him in the end. When we got more POVs in this, I was so obsessed. I loved being able to hear from just the other points of views, and obviously the thing that really confused me, which I mentioned in the vlog, was the diary entries at first. Once you understand what the diary entries are, it all makes so much sense. You know, the other POV, everything like that, it all makes a lot more sense. But near the end, when we got a different point of view, basically from like the bad guy, I really didn't expect that, but I loved it. When I was reading his chapter though, like the way that he talks, it's like, yeah, I can see that is him. Like, it's so him. I see it. I don't know how to really describe this book. It's so much to unpack, and like it just had me. It still has me. The way that this left me feeling instantly, it just was a 5-star read for me. I feel like this was just a really, really great fantasy. Good world building, not an overwhelming amount, but enough that you obviously have to learn a little bit about how things work. Just the storyline, the writing, the point of views, just the romance subplot of this, it was brilliant. And the next book is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is also in my reading vlog. So this book, it's supposed to be a romance, but like set in fantasy world, because it's Ali Hazelwood, so it's way more heavy on the romance. Like, that is the main-ish plot. This book is definitely meant to be like enemies to lovers. I genuinely just did not feel the trope in this. I didn't feel like they were truly enemies. I don't know. They never hated each other. They didn't dislike each other. They just kind of had some, you know, political and familial animosity for each other beforehand, before the arranged marriage. So that's kind of like, I was like, I don't know. So the premise in the beginning, I didn't feel that they were really enemies to lovers anyway. But as this develops on, I just couldn't feel chemistry between these two characters. I don't know. I don't know if that's just me. I know that some people really loved this, but I just couldn't feel any chemistry between them. The twist that came later on was very predictable. That was a little bit of a shame. But even if things can be predictable, it does not mean that it's bad. It didn't make it a bad book, but I just feel like the plot was not strong enough to really keep me very interested. To me, this is definitely a way more sort of short, easy, fantasy-esque read if you are way more on a romance side. I don't know if maybe it's just like Ali Hazelwood's style of writing or not. I'm not quite sure, because this was my first Ali Hazelwood book that I've read, and I know that people quite like her style of writing. I don't know if maybe I just didn't really get on with it, and that's why I didn't feel the chemistry, but I feel like it was just underdeveloped. Like, the beginning had potential. I liked and I was very interested in all the politics that they had going on, but it just, I don't know, I feel like it really lost its mark in some way. I ended up rating this a 3.5 stars because I feel like it's still entertaining enough to be entertained and to read. So the next book is Frida McFadden's The Boyfriend. This was actually my first Frida McFadden book as well. This book was really interesting. I really enjoyed, I think, the dual timeline that was going on, and when it sort of clicks into place when it needed to. That was really entertaining. I think this was a very strong book for me. The twist that happened, I did not expect at all. I had about 3 theories going on personally, and I was wrong with every single one of them. I was out here accusing completely innocent people the whole time. I don't want to say like who I thought it was or who it isn't or anything, because I really don't want to spoil what goes on in this for anybody if you're planning to read it. The epilogue in this, I just have so many questions. I'm genuinely left just like, well, what now? Sydney, how many red flags do you want to ignore? How many red flags do you keep ignoring just because you are so obsessed with just being with someone? It really irks me, because it makes sense that because she's kind of got to quite a desperate level in her life of, you know, feeling like she's behind than other people because she's not married, not settled down. I can see where that's coming from, that would make you maybe ignore some red flags, but the amount of red flags that she did ignore leading to a certain point and everything, it just makes me want to grab her and shake her and tell her to wake up. I'm not going to say anything else because I really don't want to spoil anything else about this book. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was great. It was such a good, fast-paced, quick, easy read, but so enjoyable. 4 stars. Moving on to the next book/segment is A Court of Thorns and Roses. Where to begin with this? When I started reading ACOTAR, right, I had no idea that this was a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I genuinely was reading this and I was like, damn, I really feel like it's Beauty and the Beast. I'm so confused. So I'm reading about halfway through and I see this post online of someone asking for like fairy tale retellings, and someone says in the comments, ACOTAR is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Farah in this, she's okay. She's okay. Beginning, I was sort of 50-50 on her. After kind of the halfway point when she goes back home, that's when I'm kind of like, okay, I feel more for her. I definitely pitied her a lot in this. I think you are meant to kind of pity her because her life basically is really sad. Tamlin, I was not a fan of Tamlin in this book. From the very beginning, I could tell obviously from when he first shows up that he's sort of the love interest and stuff. I just didn't see the appeal, the attraction, the anything like between her and him. Even when she's going through her trials and like all the crazy action back here at the end, which is like the best part of the book. A lot of criticism that I see that the riddle in this is too easy to solve. I saw this post from someone and what she said completely made sense, in that Farah, it's something that she has never had. She hasn't experienced it. So of course it's going to take her much longer to be able to solve that riddle. When you have nothing of your own experience to go off of, how would you guess it? When Lucian was in this, I actually thought that he might be the new love interest, but no, I was wrong. The world in this feels just like pretty magical. It feels more magical later on to me. I ended up rating this one a 3.75 stars because I think that it's really close to being 4 stars, but I just think it's not quite there. I just didn't enjoy it quite enough. And to be honest, I wish that it wasn't a Beauty and the Beast retelling, because it just kind of, it's all I could think about while I was reading that beginning part. I still think this is good. It's just like not amazing. It didn't wow me, but it was really enjoyable. And we'll move on into the next book, A Court of Mist and Fury. So much happens in this, to be honest. I genuinely feel like this should have just been one long book, because this pretty much carries on. It's like a 3-month jump roughly. This from the very beginning just made me feel for Farah so much. Rhys, that man, yeah, I see the appeal, I do. It's just the fact that Rhys has no problem being the villain to other people or the act or the show that he puts on, because his heart is true and what he does is definitely calls to his heart, and we do see that a lot in this. I think that one thing that like Sarah J Maas is doing a lot with some of her characters is just showing quite a few of the layers that there are to the different people. I find it really hard to completely dislike any one character. Oh, okay, I mean Amaranth, okay. I mean like the main characters, okay. Like even Nesta at this point, I do not hate her, but I don't know, it's really hard to completely dislike people. Even Tamlin, I do not completely dislike him because I can see where he's coming from with some of his actions. So I think that's one thing that she's doing quite well in this, is to actually make her characters a little bit more multifaceted. The thing that completely sets obviously Rhys and Tamlin apart from this is the fact that Rhys genuinely is trying to help her. I think that's a massive difference. Tamlin, his version of helping her is so odd and toxic. We also see a very big difference between Tamlin and Rhys's treatment of her, not even in a loving way, but just the fact that like her place. This book definitely is where I feel like most of the magicalness is, that kind of more ethereal feeling. It's probably because we see the Night Court, and I don't know, there's just something about it. It's really magical. It's really nice to read about. This book is so odd because I feel like a lot happens, but not a lot at the same time. But I think that's because so much happens in terms of the development of the romance and the backstory into pushing forward to the next segment of the story. This sets up really well, and the latter parts of this book I love. Farah's glimpses of paintings coming back slowly through this is so special. I think that it just shows that, I don't know, he's just healing her. It's just really sweet. Chapter 54 and 55. Let's talk about it. I heard that these chapters change people's lives. I mean, obviously, it's probably going to be over-exaggerated. It was nice. It was nice. But I don't know. I do think that it was a little bit overhyped. The book as a whole was just lovely romance between them, but I don't know. I suppose hearing Rhys like professor's love and profess all the everything is really nice to read, right? But yeah, I don't know what the true like obsession is within those chapters. A man being able to profess his love in that way and actually tell her everything is lovely. It's absolutely lovely. But I don't think it's something out of this world. I don't think it's something that is crazy or is unimaginable and is like, oh, you only read about that, because it's not true. But with all of that all-encompassing information and feelings, I gave this a 4.75 stars. It was so close to a 5 stars, but I just didn't get quite that feeling, and the pacing, it just wasn't my favorite for the beginning. And the next installment in ACOTAR, A Court of Wings and Ruin. This book, the pacing in this was so good. I thoroughly got into this book from the very beginning. When Cassian turns up in this, it's like, oh my god, yes, like you're like, oh, it's what we needed. This was so like action-packed. The politics obviously is so strong in this. It was introduced in A Court of Mist and Fury, but in this, the politics are really just taking over. We have the war, everything going on in this, brilliant. It was just so enjoyable. The battle sequence that takes place, the way that things end, I did not expect the person that ends things to be that person. That really surprised me. When Tamlin turned up in this and actually helped out, that surprised me. I was okay. This is why I'm saying that I just don't feel like I can actually hate Tamlin. I don't hate him. I love in this how much there is the found family. I love Rhys with his family. I think that it's so heartwarming to see those kinds of relationships build with these people, and just how much he genuinely cares about them. I just think it's really nice. The ending in this, it was so satisfying. It was such a good, beautiful wrap up of an ending. I just genuinely loved it. There is nothing I would change about this book, and I don't know, just that really satisfying feeling of the way that this story's ended. It was perfect. I don't think that there could have been a difference. And the fact that it was like a happy ending, not like a bittersweet. It ended in just such a good way. I don't know how else to describe it. It was just perfect. And the action, the events, the characters. I gave this book 5 stars. I just wouldn't change anything. It was a perfect ending. And to the final book is A Court of Frost and Starlight. So this is a novella that carries on after A Court of Wings and Ruin, and really this just feels like it just sets up for you to just move into A Court of Silver Flames. This book was enjoyable. It just felt like a quick like winter special of a series that just doesn't really mean that much, that you could skip, in my opinion. I know that people have said that there are Easter eggs in this. Obviously, I've not noticed exactly what those Easter eggs are yet because I've not finished reading A Court of Silver Flames. Once I finish that, maybe I'll change my mind about this book. It was still enjoyable. We got a little bit more of Cassian, we got some more of Nesta, we got a bit more of Amren. Like, we got a lot of extra scenes, let's call it, after the events that happened, but I don't know, it felt a little bit disjointed. I think that because we got different points of view, I'm not sure. I don't really know exactly why, but this book I just didn't really feel connected to. I liked getting some more of Rhys, for sure. I really did like seeing a bit more about Cassian. Obviously, like, him and Nesta is a bit of just a confusing situation in this. I've started Court of Silver Flames. It's still a bit weird between them there, to be honest. And you are left with some questions because of the events of A Court of Wings and Ruin. I don't want to call it filler, but it felt filler because I feel like most of what was in here could have just gone in A Court of Silver Flame. This also shows a little bit more about what's going on with Tamlin. This definitely gave us a little bit more insight into Nesta as a person, in the way that she pushes people away, how she's trying to cope with the aftermath of, all the changes in her life. I gave this 3.5 stars because it was entertaining enough to read and to enjoy as part of the overarching story. And that is everything I read in October and November. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please go down below, hit the like button, and consider subscribing to never miss a video from me. But I'll see you guys again in the next video. Bye!